Hey, what's up there, YouTubers? It's me again, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 cent Nintendo/gaming video where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention this week and give you my thoughts and my opinion on them. And we have 4 stories to cover, including one in regard to Cyberpunk 2077, including a new 25-minute gameplay video that came out, to the latest trailer, not to mention some features that were scrapped for that game, and supposedly the game would be somewhat censored in another part of the world. We also saw a situation with the game Crysis that they just showed off the Switch trailer, but the whole situation with how they showed it off and all that stuff has certainly been, well, kind of interesting. It has led to a delay on the game original July 23rd release. We also are going to be talking about Nintendo's recent, what they talked about in terms of their, their financial meetings and all that stuff, ranging from getting approval from several folks to the direction they might be going with the Directs and the Switch in general. And of course, we're going to talk about a brand new controversy that has basically emerged with the Wonderful 101 in regards to the Kickstarter. Full disclosure, I did back the Wonderful 101 on Kickstarter, so any opinion I have about this situation is my opinion and my opinion alone. I'm not being paid, sponsored, or endorsed by anybody or Platinum in general. But before we get started, why don't we do what I'd like to call a quick rundown, which is the quick My 2 cent part, where I take a look at some of the stories that kind of caught my attention in a way, but not going into full details or a huge amount of details. First one is that we now know that Final Fantasy Crysis Chronicles Remastered, the game that's coming to both PC, PS4, Nintendo Switch, and ISO and Android device, will have a demo version or a light edition and all that stuff for those who want to try it out. So that certainly is kind of neat, though. Although, if I do get the game, I'll probably get the Switch version, and hopefully, if this one does well, maybe they'll bring in other entries of the Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicles. I think there were some on the Nintendo DS, and including one on the Nintendo Wii, so I'm curious if they'll bring that one over in any way. We also learned that Crash Bandicoot 4, we learned earlier this year there was some controversies in regards of supposedly microtransactions were going to be in the game or anything like that. This was sort of found on a Microsoft store. I believe that's it. I'm not 100% sure. But so far the developers have come out and said that there will be no microtransactions whatsoever, which that could be true, and this person could be telling the truth, but we saw what happened with Crash Nitro Racing, how that didn't have microtransactions in the beginning, but then after the reviews and all that stuff came out, Activision Blizzard pulled a fast one and basically put microtransactions later on into the game, and many people thought that was very scummy. So I can see why some people might be a little hesitant on this one as well, and I am kind of, but we'll wait and see if that is true, if microtransactions are not going to be in the game, or whether Activision tries to pull something like they did with Crash Nitro Racing, if I'm saying the name correctly and all that stuff. We also learned that a 16-year-old student in Japan was arrested for basically threatening to blow up the headquarters of Konami. This had to do with certainly something to do with one of their games, and perhaps, I think it was in-game purchases, I'm not 100% sure. I understand not everyone is a fan of Konami, and they have deserve their own criticism and backlash, though, but threatening the company is not one of those ways that this should be handled. So I think that this person deserves to get punished for what they were trying to do in the first place. We learned that Capcom has basically said that there's currently no plans at this time to bring Monster Hunter World to the Nintendo Switch, but supposedly they have something up their sleeves this time. I think it's a little disappointing that they don't have plans to bring Monster Hunter World. I think that another Monster Hunter game would be nice to bring to the Nintendo Switch. Maybe incorporate certain elements from Monster Hunter World and use that, though. But as of right now, no Monster Hunter World is not coming to the Nintendo Switch. We also learned that Bandai Namco will be hosting a Play Anime live event sometime this month, though. I'll be interested to see what they show at this event. Maybe some anime games that they'll be bringing over. We know Jump Force Deluxe is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch. No word if there's any other games. Honestly, I would be down with another Sword Art Online. whether it's a port of another Sword Art Online game that has been released before, or that brand new one. I believe they're working on another one, though. If so, I would like to see that come to Nintendo Switch, but we'll find out later this month. We also learned that Retro Studio is still hiring as we speak, and recently they hired somebody who worked on the Call of Duty Black Ops games. It's starting to make it sound really interesting with all these people that they are hiring, though, and I'm curious to see what Metroid Prime 4 is going to look like, though. So here's to hoping we'll see something about it soon. I think a lot of us would love to hear some more information about that game. We also learned that basically Bravely Second, a Nintendo 3DS game, has re-entered the UK charts, and this week it was like #1, which is kind of surprising on this. I'm curious to see why it entered back at #1. I mean, is it this build-up hype for the upcoming Bravely Default Second and all that stuff? So it's just weird to see it at the #1 in the UK charts. And honestly, I wouldn't mind if the first Bravely Default or Bravely Second were to be remade for the Nintendo Switch. I certainly would be down with that, though. We also learned that supposedly Square Enix will make some announcements of some of their games in July and August. Supposedly this was supposed to be announced during E3 this year, but because, E3 got canceled due to the whole coronavirus situation, though, obviously they're going to be doing this approach, though. And again, I'm curious. Hopefully we'll hear some of these announcements or some of these games coming to the Nintendo Switch. And last but not least, we learned that Azura Striker Gunvolt, if I'm saying it correctly, 3, is going to be coming to the Nintendo Switch as an exclusive. But I don't know if it's a exclusive. I don't know if it's a timed exclusive or not, since the first and second one are making their way over to the PS4. But in either way, it is nice that they're bringing these games over. The first and second ones were kind of like you definitely got a bit of a Mega Man vibe out of it in a way. So it's nice to see this one coming exclusively to the Nintendo Switch. But like I said, don't know if this is a timed exclusive or not. So we'll find out. But for now, it's exclusive for the Nintendo Switch at this moment. Okay, with the quick My 2 cent part now done, we'll get started with our first story. And this one has to do with the situation in regards of the Wonderful 101. Now, I mentioned this earlier, but in case you missed it, though, full disclosure, I did back the Wonderful 101 on Kickstarter, though. Any opinions I have in this situation is my opinion and my opinion alone. I'm not being paid, sponsored, or endorsed by either Platinum or anybody in general. So with that full disclosure part now out of the way, as some of you probably are aware, Wonderful 101 was started on Kickstarter and was backed by a lot of people who wanted to see this game happen. Many people felt like it was a cult hit on the Wii U and all that stuff. Now, I played the game. I'm playing it on the Switch right now, and I remember playing it on the Wii U. I'll have a review hopefully soon in regards of the Switch version, to be exact. And the game is fun with a bit of a learning curve to it, though. But sadly, it didn't do well on the Wii U. There could be multiple reasons why. So it was very interesting to hear that Platinum was doing this Kickstarter to bring this game back to life and all that stuff, which it sounded all fine and dandy, but it ran into some controversy, as well as not everyone was happy with it, as it turned out to be that the only reason they did the Kickstarter was to get some interest into it, though, to get people interested in it and not to actually fully fund the game. Not everybody was very happy with that, and some people felt that was very shady for what Platinum did. And now a new controversy has emerged now, and this one has to do with supposedly with those in the UK who backed it, who now feel like they've been cheated out or was never disclosed about this information in terms of basically an extra fee or something like that. In an article from PocketGames.biz, okay, there it goes. It says, quote, backers of Wonderful 101 Kickstarter campaigns are being hit by unexpected custom charge and handling fees. As shown on Kickstarters, many backers have blamed Platinum Games for failing to mention the extra fees as part of its campaign, which indirectly goes against the rules placed by crowdfunding firms in its support sections. Import fees must be made clear and should have been detailed in the reward section of the Wonderful 101 campaign and features in the project description. Quote said not so wonderful. In the UK specifically, backers are looking at around £17, $21 US dollars, over a custom charge which would bring the price total of the game to over £50, $60 in the US, when it could have been purchased 2 months ago in the country for £32, $39. Backers across Europe has reported similar problems. In March, not long before the campaign came to a close, Platinum executive director explained that the fundraiser was more about garnering interest in the title. In less than 16 hours, more than $1 million was raised. Well, Platinum has kind of responded to this, though, and has addressed it, though, and it still hasn't made everyone happy. Supposedly, it reads in an update sent to backers for the campaign, Platinum has addressed the issue and said while the team is sorry for the additional charge, it had warned backers about the potential cost in its FAQ. According to the statement that Platinum wrote on their Kickstarter page, as written here by Nintendo Life. Let me get that back up. Okay, it reads, quote, excuse me. A number of our UK backers had informed us that they have additional taxes applied when receiving their package. Although possible method of alleviating, alleviating, this was considered, the tariff duties from different countries can be very strict, and we made sure to comply with all correspondence legal restrictions. We are sorry for the additional charge, but it's clearly stated in the FAQ on Kickstarter page that all physical rewards are shipped out from the United States, and that any applied VAT, or regional tariff will be paid by backers. The article goes on by saying that, quote, however, backers don't believe this to be the case. In the reply to Platinum updates, which can only be viewed by those who pledged to the campaign, fans have highlighted that this particular piece of information was only added to the Kickstarter campaign FAQ section on the 12th of February, more than a week after the campaign launch and long after many have already pledged their support. As you might expect, some backers are now asking for compensation and are threatening to avoid buying any Platinum Games purchases in the future. It makes you wonder why Platinum opted to go through Kickstarter at all, especially considering it didn't need to use the platform to generate funds. So apparently it looks as though those who pledged support for the game in the UK are now being hit with basically fees and all that stuff, and they're not happy about it. Now, I will say that if this is true, assuming this information is true, and Platinum never informed those, especially in the UK, who did decide to back this game, yeah, I mean, that is pretty shady. And I do kind of agree, though, to an extent that this information should have been upfront right from the beginning, so that those who are in the UK or in Europe who chose to back this were informed so that they can make the decision whether to go through with backing this or not. So if the allegation is true that they did not put this in right away, then yeah, I think that was a very scummy thing. And regardless of how you feel about Platinum in terms of how they handle the situation or not, I can't randomly see them trying another Kickstarter again if they try to pull this off, because people are going to remember about how this was handled and all that. And this adds another problem with the whole crowdfunding in general. While I think crowdfunding can be a good thing and it could work when it's done correctly, we've had scams, we've had atrocities, and we have situations where crowdfunding has not gone 100% well. Mighty Number 9 is a very good example of that kind of situation. As for those who basically are threatening to avoid buying any Platinum games in the future, I don't know. I don't know how much of an impact that will have, or whether people will choose to go through with it or not. I mean, I've heard this story before, and it doesn't always pan out to be the case or anything like that. I am very curious to see whether or not we see a lawsuit or not out of this, though, and I'm very curious if that happens. will they have a case or anything like that. So overall, if these allegations are true about it, I think it was a very scummy thing for Platinum to do, assuming that these are true. And I think that they should have done a better job informing backers in the UK and in Europe, though, that by choosing to back this or anything like that about, the fees and all that stuff, they should have been upfront about it from the beginning so that they can make that decision right away. Whether or not there will be a lawsuit out of this or not, that remains to be seen. Whether people actually go through with their threat of not buying Platinum games or Platinum products in the future or not, that remains to be seen as well. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we'll get to part 2. And this one has to do with supposedly how the shareholders meeting happened recently in regards of Nintendo and what they are doing going forward. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Nintendo, and basically they held their annual shareholder meeting. This is the 80th one out there, and some interesting information came out regarding ranging from the ratings that some of the CEOs and the higher-ups have gotten to basically some comments they made in regards of the future of the Nintendo Directs and the Joy-Con drift situation, and about some of their development though. So basically we'll start off with the first part of this one, and that is basically each of the CEOs or the folks, the higher ups, including like folks like Shigeru Miyamoto, apparently got new approval ratings though. The first one in the article from Nintendo Life, worth to point out all this has come from Nintendo Life. It reads that, quote, every time Nintendo holds one of its annual general meetings of shareholders, its directors are faced with new series of votes from shareholders to assure their approval rating. Today, the day of the 80th annual meeting, is no different, and they have records of how the votes went down. So Shigeru Furukawa, again, I apologize if I say his name incorrectly though, apparently he, the current CEO of Nintendo, has received about, quote, 937,392 votes in favor, which is 95.47%, 41,324 votes against, and 245 people vote of the shareholders who did not vote. Shigeru Miyamoto, though, has basically 965,332 votes in favor, which is a 98.32%, 12,059 votes against, and 1,575 votes that did not vote. So, and then basically they had all the other directors on there. The article says that, quote, that all 5 directors saw their approval ratings increase year on year, with Furukawa rating jumping mostly up to 95.47% from last year's 92.04%. So obviously the shareholders seem to be pretty happy right now with the current situation, with the leadership of Nintendo, and given the current situation right now. And I kind of could see why, with the Switch doing very well for them as of right now. Again, how well the Switch will do next year when the PS5 and Xbox One Series X comes out will remain to be seen, and we'll see how shareholders how they view the folks like Shigeru Miyamoto and all that stuff, the folks in charge of Nintendo right now, whether or not next year will be different than this year. But for now, obviously the shareholders are pretty happy and all that stuff. During the shareholder meeting, they also touched up on a lot of things. The first one is about games being delayed due to COVID-19, the coronavirus. Another article from Nintendo Life reads that, quote, the coronavirus pandemic had a pretty significant impact on Nintendo's ability to produce and distribute Switch systems. The company first admit that production has been affected way back in January, and after months of supplies issues, it was only earlier this week that we first heard about the situation returning to normal. Hopefully that is true, and that people who want a Nintendo Switch can hopefully will get their hands on one though soon. Anyway, continuing on though, now Nintendo has provided an update on where things starting regarding game development. The news comes from Nintendo's 80th general shareholders meeting, which has been translated by a person who contributes to Nintendo Life. It reads that, quote, Director and Senior Manager Executive Officer Shinra Takahasa, again, I apologize if I'm not saying the name correctly though, says Nintendo has faced development delays due to COVID-19, but it will not affect upcoming releases. In the future, if the pandemic continues, there could be delays in future development and releases. This one I'm kind of not surprised, and to be fair, Nintendo isn't the only company that is facing this. I'm pretty sure other developers are being hit by, because of COVID-19 and the whole work from home situation, I'm sure some of them are also been affected, especially some games had to been delayed and all that stuff. One example I could give was the Switch version of The Outer Worlds, which was supposed to come out in, I believe it was March, but because of the COVID-19, the staff or the team that worked on that, Virtuos, had to shut down due to the whole COVID-19, and the game had to be pushed back till like May or so, just to ensure the safety of the employees and all that stuff. So it looks as though, according to them, that none of the games currently released for this year will be impacted, but going forward, assuming what the situation with the COVID-19 virus is, though, it looks like we could see delays of games that perhaps maybe were originally supposed to come out at a certain date in 2021. It's possible those games could be pushed back. And I wouldn't be surprised if we hear other games be impacted by this, particularly those for maybe the upcoming PS5 and Xbox Series X. It is possible we could see some delays from them, but for right now, it looks like it's full steam ahead with the games currently scheduled for release for this year, though. Next year, depending on what the situation with the coronavirus and all, don't be surprised if you hear some games get delayed because of the whole situation with the coronavirus, though. Another thing Nintendo has officially touched upon is the issue in regards of directs, and they have said that, quote, that they do see them effective, but don't expect them to be around forever, though. From another article from Nintendo Life, basically Fukushima answered this in part of a Japanese Q&A, and it highlights the direct success, but also comment on future communications. He says that as times change, it's possible directs could be scrapped in favor of a better method, though. According to the translation, courtesy of VGC, the statement he made and then translated said, quote, "We feel Nintendo Directs are an incredibly effective way to present information directed to our customers in a very straightforward way. Universally, times change, and so does the most effective way to promote products. So there is a chance that a new, better way to present this information comes about. So we always like to examine all the possibilities, ways to communicate this information to customers, though." While I can understand that they may be exploring other ideas to communicate in terms of delivering the message about their upcoming products and all, I kind of would feel a little bit sad if they'd stop doing directs, though, because I like the way that they have approached them, though. Yes, not every direct is 100% perfect, nor is there, E3 digital presentations. I wasn't a big fan of 2013's or 2015's, but I will say 2019's one was good last year and all that stuff. So some directs, aren't always 100% perfect, but they had a bit of a charm to it, though. And I liked how Nintendo did really a better job, communicating in terms of getting what kind of game you're going to get from them and all that stuff, what's going to be coming out and all that. So I would certainly be disappointed and sad if they are basically going to end the directs and all that stuff. I understand there may be other methods in terms of promoting your product, I'm not against them exploring new ideas and all that stuff, but I personally feel they should keep the directs around. I really do, but obviously it's going to be their call, and if they decided that this method is better than doing the directs, that's their choice on it, though. But I will say it would be kind of sad if they end the directs, though. Although, supposedly there is a rumor going around lately that supposedly there might be a direct this month or something like that. I don't know if this is true or not, so we'll have to wait and see and all that stuff, but I'm hoping it's true though. So for me, fingers crossed on that one. And last but not least, they actually touched up on an issue that has popped up for Switch owners though, and that has been the Joy-Con drift issue though. Now, just to be clear though, I've had my Switch since 2017, and I haven't really experienced any Joy-Con drift or anything like that. That said, that's not to say I think Joy-Con drift doesn't exist or anything like that. It doesn't surprise me that there are those who probably have experienced Joy-Con drift, but as far as I'm aware of, and I'm only speaking for myself, I haven't experienced it in any way. Still, the issue has not gone away, nevertheless, though, and Nintendo has recently been faced with a lawsuit in regards of the Joy-Con drifts, and they have come out and commented on the issue, though. The Nintendo president has not only apologized it, but isn't commenting further along in regards of it, though. According to the other article from Nintendo Life, it reads that, quote, "You probably heard of Joy-Con drift by now, though. This hardware issue caused the controller's analog stick to register movement even when it isn't being touched, and we've seen plenty of Switch owners complain about the strange phenomenon happening to them over the past few years. Not everyone has come up against the problem with the Joy-Cons, of course, but they did put up a guide on how to fix it, though. But they mentioned this in the Japanese Q&A. It reads, quote, "Today in a Japanese Q&A meeting, Nintendo President Sakura Furukiya," again, I apologize, I'm not saying the name correctly though, "has actually apologized for the inconvenience caused by the Joy-Con issues. He refrains from making any further comments, citing the ongoing class-action lawsuit currently taking place in the United States. The case in question was first filed back in July 2019. The lawsuit alleged the joysticks on the Joy-Con controllers are defected, leading users to experience drift issues. A few months later, following its launch, the Nintendo Switch Lite was also added to the lawsuit as user reports the drift with the new consoles also started to emerge. The last time we've heard about the case was in May 2020 when the claim was sent to arbitration, though. What happens there remains to be seen, though. And although Nintendo can't comment in regards to the lawsuit, I wouldn't be surprised if we hear something like, say, a settlement or anything like that. I would not be shocked if they just want to settle this out of court and sort of be done with this as soon as possible, though. I will say that if Nintendo decides to do a Switch Pro or Switch.to, which honestly, given the success of Switches right now, and given their partnership with NVIDIA that supplies the chip that powers the Nintendo Switch, which supposedly, barring any kind of major change or anything like that, supposedly that will last up to 2 decades, though, I do think that if a Switch.to and a Switch Pro does happen, I do hope that Nintendo addresses the Joy-Con drift and try to figure out how to avoid that kind of mistake that may have affected some of the Nintendo Switches and Switch Lites when the system came out and all that stuff. Again, like I said, I haven't experienced Joy-Con drift or anything like that, but I'm not denying the fact that the issue probably does exist, and there's no denying that people certainly have an impact on it, though, in any way. Where this lawsuit goes from here remains to be seen, although I wouldn't be surprised if I hear a settlement in any way. And I do hope going forward, assuming a Switch.to or Switch Pro, like I said, whenever that happens, which I do believe it probably will, I'm hoping going forward that they address this concern in terms of the Joy-Con drift so they can avoid this kind of problem going forward. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 3. And this one has to do with Crysis and sort of the bizarre situation that game has, the remastered version, has gotten itself into that has led to a delay in terms of when originally it was supposed to come out this month. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and this one, we're going to be talking about the situation in regards of the Crysis Remastered. For those who are not familiar, it was later revealed earlier sometime this year, though, that a remaster of the 2007 first-person shooter Crysis was going to be coming to consoles and PCs, and especially the Nintendo Switch. Now, I never played the original one when it came out, but I've heard stories about how this game was very taxing and very demanding on the PC or any console for in general, and it's always earned the nickname of, or this meme of, can it run Crysis and so forth. And it's also worth pointing out there was also a Crysis.to and a Crysis 3, which I wouldn't mind seeing a remaster of those on the Nintendo Switch if it ever happens. So earlier this week, we learned that the game was sort of leaked out in terms of footage and screenshots of it, though. And recently we got a chance to see basically the Nintendo Switch version, or supposedly the trailer that was showing gameplay running on the Nintendo Switch. And based on that trailer alone in regards to the Switch version, it doesn't look that bad or anything like that. I'm very curious to see how well it plays on the Nintendo Switch, how stable the frame rate is, and so forth. So I am very curious about how the game runs on the Nintendo Switch. However, it does seem as though as the other versions, or at least as far as I'm aware of, did not receive a positive garnish, though. There are allegations that some people feel that it looks like a PC in a lower settings. Others say that it looks worse than the 2007 version and all that stuff. Most people feel like they just took the trailer from the 2007 version and just put it up there. So it doesn't seem that it got the attention that people wanted, and it certainly has garnished somewhat of a bit of a backlash, to the point that they have decided to delay the game from its July 23rd release, although we don't have a new release date at this time, to supposedly polish and fix things up. In an article first reported on GameSpot, it reads that, quote, Crysis Remaster and trailer delayed an hour before schedule revealed. Crysis Remaster had its release date pushed back after leaked trailer garnished a hostile reaction from fans. Crysis Remaster was supposed to debut its game trailer today on July 1st. Instead, Crysis announced that the remaster has been delayed by a few weeks from its original July 23rd date after a leaked gameplay trailer resulted in some fans upset. Several YouTube commentators joked that Crytek had remastered the console version of the famous taxing PC game, though. They said, quote, the feature you're looking forward to is already set, but we want to take time on polishing the game. A portion of the statement reads, you might be aware that the leak yesterday, and we want you to know we've seen all the reactions, the good and the bad, and we are listening, though. A previously stored description for the game stated that it would have remastered graphical options for new generation of hardware. What exactly that means remains to be seen, as it's unclear what hardware the leaked trailer was running on. However, Crysis Remastered does represent the first time that the Crysis series has come to the Nintendo Switch. In case you're wondering what the statement that Crytek has said, according to a tweet that they put out on social media, though, it reads, quote, Dear Crysis fans, as you know, Crysis Remastered will be coming into the world this year, and at the same time, the Crysis IP will debut on Nintendo Switch. Your passion for the Crysis franchise deserves an undeniable high-quality game, as we are committed to delivering just that. To ensure that we meet that commitment, we will need to delay the launch date, all platforms, and trailer premiere by a few weeks. Because they already started pre-orders for the Switch will stay open, but pre-orders for all other platforms will be delayed as well. The features you are looking forward to are already set, but we want to take the time to polish the game. You might be aware of the leak yesterday, and we want you to know we've seen all the reactions, the good and the bad, and we're listening. We're still working on a number of things in the game as well as the storefront. Please keep the love coming, and rest assured you'll have the game you love shortly. This extra time until release will allow us to get Crysis Remaster up to the PC and console breaking standards you come to expect from the Crysis game. We hope you understand what we're up to, and that you'll stay with us while we take the time to make a few more improvements stay tuned and we'll have that game in your hands as soon as we possibly can. We'll keep you updated on our progress, so please hang in there and check back here for a few updates. Thank you, Team Crysis. So this is kind of bizarre, the whole situation, indeed, that after this leak came out and all that stuff, they decided, oh, we better delay and all that stuff. And it's kind of interesting because The Verge kind of pointed this out, that this almost kind of sounds similar to what we saw with the Sonic the Hedgehog movie. When the first trailer came out, it got bombarded big time because a lot of people hated the Sonic design, and for rightfully so. It looked hideous and ugly. The reaction was so bad, it pushed to the point that Paramount decided that they would delay the movie so they can redesign Sonic to make him more presentable, and in the end, that proved to pay off. The second trailer proved to got a better response than the first one did, and the movie was a financial success, so much that there are plans to do a sequel on that one as well. So this situation is weird and all that stuff, but if the end result is that they iron out the areas necessary to make the game look better than what this trailer was, I mean, it could work. I mean, it could, in the end, the game could look much better than what we saw originally and all that stuff. So overall, a bizarre situation with Crysis in any way. I'm still looking forward to when the game comes out. I'm looking forward to getting the Switch version because I want to see how well that game runs on the Nintendo Switch and so forth. But it's just weird, this whole situation where after the backlash, how some fans were not happy with the game looked, though, that they decided they'll go ahead and delay it, though. Hopefully we'll find out soon. Hopefully the delay will be well worth it in the end. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we'll get to part 4, and this one has to do with Cyberpunk 2077, with 2 stories in regards of a scrap feature and where it will be censored in certain parts of the world, and my thoughts on the 25-minute gameplay video that has just recently came out. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with our 4th and final part of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, I'm going to be talking about in regards of Cyberpunk 2077. Now, this is one of, probably, for a lot of people, this is one of the most anticipated titles out there. It's from, the same studio that brought us Witcher 3, which is loved by a lot of people, especially the way they handled DLCs and all that stuff, and has served as an example of how DLCs should be handled as well, along with other games like Splatoon 2 and Hyrule Warriors, to be exact, though. But in either case, though, Cyberpunk 2077 is a big title for a lot of people. Originally, it was supposed to come out in April, but then it got pushed back to September. A report came out that one of the reasons was that CD Projekt Red was having a hard time getting the game to run properly on the base PS4 and base Xbox One, and now we hear the report that it will be coming out in November, and supposedly it will take advantage of Microsoft's Smart Delivery, where if you purchase the game, you'll be able to play it right off the bat on your Xbox Series X with all the updates and all that stuff, and supposedly something similar like that will happen with the upcoming PS5. And recently we just saw not only a brand new trailer, but also a 25-minute gameplay video, a new one in terms of showing off the gameplay and all of that stuff. But we also had several new stories that have come out in regards of it. The first one has to do with a feature that was originally going to be in Cyberpunk 2077, but the developers decided to drop it all together, and that feature had to do with, supposedly, I think there was a wall climbing or I think like a wall run. But yeah, wall running feature has been dropped. According to an article from PC Gamer, it reads that, quote, "In our E3 2018 preview of Cyberpunk 2077, our first real look at the game, we noticed with some surprises that unlike the Witcher game, it will be a first-person shooter." CD Projekt Red pushed back on that bit, insisting that it's a first-person RPG, although we said in the follow-up it was something of a semantic dispute. Again, I'll have to see for myself. I wouldn't I'm all down if it's like a first-person RPG or anything like that. Anyway, the article continues with, FPS can be described a certain style of game. Wolfenstein literally means you shoot from a first-person view. We explained in an update. The latter is absolutely the case of what we meant. There's a lot of guns, there's cover, sliding, wall runs, all sort of things we've seen in recent first-person shooters like Titanfall 2. As it turns out, the plan has changed somewhat. There will be guns, and plenty of them, and all the actions will be rendered from a first-person perspective, but there will not be any wall running. Level design Max Pierre told Game Reactor that the feature had been cut. The person said, quote, the wall running, Pierre said. This is something we removed due to design reasons, but there's still going to be a lot of flexibility in how you move, that's for sure. The article continues with, quote, I don't mind hearing that wall running has been cut. I think it's typically included in games because it's trendy, not because it adds anything of value. And it's also an upsetting reminder that we still don't have sight of a new Titanfall sequel. But even without the personal perspective, I can see why CD Projekt Red would opt to let it slide. Shooters like Titanfall 2 are built around a relatively small level in which forward process is everything, but in a large, vast, more complex open world like that of Cyberpunk 2077, I have to think that it's just begging for no end of awful, unforeseen headaches, though. So, obviously, the wall running has been taken out and all that stuff, and you know what? I mean, I wouldn't mind if it was there or anything like that, although I don't know how that, obviously it worked well in Titanfall 2 and all that stuff, but somewhat disappointed, but not really losing sleep over this in any way and all that stuff. So, yeah, they dropped the wall running and all that, but, hey, if they choose to remove it, they choose to remove it. It's not really something I'm losing sleep over. But the other article from PC Gamer had to do with the fact that the game is going to be censored in Japan, but most of the changes are cosmetics. According to another article from PC Gamer, it reads that, quote, Cyberpunk 2077 will be slightly different in Japan. CD Projekt Red has confirmed the revision for Japan mostly concerns nudity, but intense and genital-shaped objects will also be removed. According to a statement provided by CD Projekt Red, the change has been made in order to comply with the Japanese rating agency, the CERO requirement. Instances of nudity will be covered up with underwear in Japan, including on the protagonist. Elsewhere, certain cutscenes of sexual nature has been edited, while some will surface as well as intents are edited. Some billboards, graffiti, and genital-shaped objects have either been edited or removed. Customizable genitals, not in Japan. The act of dismemberment itself during combat is not changed in any way, the statement confirms. It has added that no actual events have been cut from the game. It's just be pared back a bit in the nudity and gore department. Cyberpunk 2077 has generally received an 18+ rating throughout the world, which seemed to have pleased at least one person on the development team. Thankfully, the game won't be banned or censored in Australia like many feared, which, as a side note, I think that is incredibly stupid, though. I'm a believer of, you know what? As long as it gets its ratings, as long as it stays within the ratings category, like here in the US, I mean, as long as it stays within the M-rated, 17 and up, fine by me. I'm not going to complain about the game or anything like that whatsoever. But the fact that they are making some changes such as nudity and all that stuff for the Japanese version, to me that seems a bit odd, considering that in some of the animes and all that stuff, nudity is not like a big deal or anything like that. So I just think it's sort of weird. Maybe it's the way it's being done or something like that in Cyberpunk 2077. But in either case, obviously they are to keep it within the requirements for Japan's rating system, the CERO. Obviously they have to make some adjustments and all that stuff. Either way, I'm still looking forward Either way, though, I'm sure there are still people in Japan looking forward to getting the game, though how well it does in Japan or not remains to be seen. But obviously, the big thing has to do with the fact that they put out a 25-minute gameplay video, no commentary, of more on the gameplay and all that stuff. Now, just to be clear, I haven't played the game or anything like that, so the footage that they showed, the situation could be different once I play the game and so forth and all that stuff, but the footage that they showed, at least the 25-minute gameplay, I do have to agree with some of the comments. It just didn't, I just wasn't feeling it with this one or anything like that. Maybe this is just snippets of the game. Maybe there will be more down the road and all that stuff. I mean, some of the gameplay looks interesting and nice. Some of it, you have, like choices, what choices you made and all that stuff, to some of the gunplay in the game and some of the driving, which, I mean, doesn't look bad or anything like that, but it just didn't feel exciting or anything like that. But like anything, that's just, 25 minutes of it. It's perhaps once I play the game, once I dig deeper into it when the game comes out, maybe the situation is going to be much different than what they are showing right now. And some people who have played the game are saying that it's really good and all that stuff. So maybe this is just a small snippet of it, though, and I have to see the game, actually try it out myself. But for now, at least based on just this gameplay footage alone, it's not bad, but I'm not feeling any excitement out of it or anything like that. But again, like I said, I'm just basing this only on the gameplay video that they have recently shown so far. Okay, this concludes this My 2 Cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about the whole situation with the Wonderful 101 and the whole tariff and fee thing for UK backers who back the game and all that stuff? Do you think they're going a little bit overboard with this? Do you think people have a right to be angry at Platinum and all? Do you think Platinum may have misled them in any way? And is there any possibility a lawsuit could happen or anything like that? What are your thoughts about the whole with Nintendo hosting their annual 80th shareholders meeting and all that stuff? Are you happy that the shareholders are pleased with the way the higher-ups are handling Nintendo right now, particularly with folks like Shigeru Miyamoto and all that stuff? Do you think that because of COVID-19, it's possible we could see some major delays, particularly maybe next year and all that stuff? Do you think they're right to consider maybe looking at other avenues to get the message out about their products without using a direct, or do you think they should still stick with the direct design and all? Are you pleased with the fact that they apologize in regards to the whole Joy-Con drifting? And do you think it's possible we could see this situation be possibly settled out of court, a settlement and all that? What are your thoughts about the whole Crysis Remastered situation, though? Do you think people had a right to be angry over the fact that the game the remaster did not look impressive? Do you think the Crytek did the right decision to delay the game, to polish and fix some areas, to be exact? Or do you think some people are just blowing it way out of proportion? Are you still planning to get Crysis Remaster? And if so, which version are you going to get? For me, I'm getting the Switch version, but I'm sure others may have a different view on which version they want to get. And what are your thoughts about the situation with Cyberpunk 2077? Are you disappointed that they're limiting the wall run feature, or do you think it's no big deal? Do you think it's bizarre that the game's going to be, to some degree, censored in Japan, or are you not surprised about this at all? And what about the 25-minute gameplay footage that just recently came out? Are you still excited for this game? Do you think the footage was good? Do you think it was mixed? Do you thought it was bad in any way? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off on the comment section below. Let me know what you think. And if you like this video, I hope you hit the like button. I would appreciate it. And I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You can do it through PayPal Me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, I wish you all a good day then. Bye!